And now, without further ado, it's Vegan Sunday School.
Hi,
we
Sky.
made it. We've made it another week. Hello, Fanny. Yeah, we made it one more week.
We have a special guest today.
I know, that's pretty cool, right? I always like it when we bring guests to Sunday School. Here we go. Let's go.
Me too. It's our new intro. Vegan Sunday School.
Kirsten, Maryland.
Oh my gosh, so pretty. This channel's just for you.
This sounds so wholesome.
This channel's just for vegans. Woo!
Hey, right? What do you think?
Wow, so pretty. I love it, Kirsten. I don't know if you're watching, Kirsten, but thank you so much. We love it.
I think Kirsten did a good job. I think I'm enjoying it. Nice easy vibe for a Sunday chill out with the VFFs, you know.
Made me emotional. I was like, I
Oh.
was so moved. I loved it. It was so
Really?
cool.
Well,
I
okay,
love
I'm
it.
glad.
Yeah, love it. But today we have a special guest. Everybody, let me introduce you to Aylam Orian.
Aylam.
Oh, you can't see
Welcome,
my hand.
Aylam.
Hi, everyone.
Your
That's okay.
hand.
You're handless. You're handless today. What did I forget to bring to the stream? My hands.
My hand. But I love that you have your t-shirt Our Planet. There's two, because today we're going to talk about this is the association. Is it an association?
Nonprofit
organization you've created. So I'm super excited to have you. So do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you in just a few words?
Yeah, I'm an actor like you. I live in Los Angeles. Lived in New York before, and that's where I became I was an animal rights activist already in Israel, where I grew up. But when I moved to New York, I got involved with animal rights groups and rekindled my animal rights activism. And that's where, after about 10 years, I decided to start my own nonprofit, because I couldn't find my thing among all the animal rights groups that existed over there, and they all did great work, but I wasn't, whatever each one of them did wasn't really my thing. So I decided to start my own thing. And yeah, I started this nonprofit in 2011, and what we do a bunch of projects, but what we are mostly known for is NARD, National Animal Rights Day, which is one day of events that happens every first Sunday of June, by now in 50 countries around the world, and growing.
Yeah, congratulations. And I think if I'm right, you have done 113 National Animal Rights Day around the world. There have been 113 events.
Well, we've been doing this for 13 years, but this year we had events in 150 cities. So basically, 50 countries. It happens simultaneously on the same day. But yeah, 150 cities at the same time in 50 countries.
Isn't it amazing? I mean,
thank you.
Congratulations, because that's a lot of people that you've. So you said your association organization is a bit different than the other ones. So what didn't you find in other organizations and that you tried to bring with yours?
First of all, everybody's amazing and everybody's doing great stuff. But I tried the leafleting in the streets and talking to people one person at a time. I tried the shouting and very vocal protests. I tried attended vegan or human meat tray organized by PETA in Times Square in New York. I did video demos. I did this, I did that. I really tried all kinds of activism that most people do. I didn't do the disruptions, going into a store and getting arrested and all that. But I really,
for you.
Well, it's great on its own, but none of them really appealed to me. None really I felt that, oh, that's my strength. I'm not good in standing on a street corner and talking to a million people all day, and I'm not good in the very
Mhm.
vocal ones. So even though sometimes it's great, like the ones we did in front of Jim Henson, but I really couldn't. I volunteered for everybody. I tried everything, but I never felt that any of them was my thing. And then in 2010, I went to the Cannes Film Festival. Do you say Cannes or Cannes?
It depends on who you ask, but
I say can.
you say Cannes.
Well,
I say can.
the way you say it is probably the correct one. So I went to the Cannes Film Festival because I had a short film there. And on the way back, I went through Madrid. And I saw this amazing group standing in the street in the Plaza del Sol, the biggest plaza in the square in Madrid. And they were just standing in line silently, no masks on, which later became a thing. And they had laptops hanging on their bodies and just stood silently and showed you slaughter and factory farm footage. And that really hit me hard because I felt it's super effective. The fact that you could stand in front of them, make eye contact with them, was very emotional for me. I'm getting a little bit even now. And I went to them and I told them, guys, who are you? That's amazing. This is what I want to do. I'm an actor. I'm in the media. I know the power of video. I know the power of street theater, which is what it is in a way,
For sure.
Art. Can I bring this to New York? And they told me their name was Igualdad Animal, or Animal Equality, which is now a very big group. At the time, they weren't ready to branch into the US. By now they did, and now they're in India and Italy and the UK and Brazil. But anyway, they kind of told me, you know what, but here's our blessing, go do it. Do the same thing in New York. And that's what I did. I got my animal rights friends and we did these video demos. We tried to do the same thing. Laptops didn't work so much in New York, so we brought a big ass TV. That's before the days of flat screen TV. We literally schlepped a big TV to Union Square in New York. We somehow plugged it to a generator or something, and we started showing videos. And again, stood in line. We had posters hanging on our bodies.
Yeah.
And it was effective, but after a while we felt, it's a lot of effort. We did it also in Grand Central Station, Port Authority. All these big hubs of transportation have a freedom of speech corner that by law.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, they can allow people. I mean, you have to get a permit, but they allow anybody to speak their mind. So we did it at Grand Central Station, in the middle of busy people running. We showed slaughter footage. We did it in Port Authority. We did it in a few other places. So I felt, that's it. That's my thing. But I'm not being effective enough because we're 20 people see it a day, and Union Square, half of them were there anyway, like homeless people just hanging out or drunk people. Or I felt power of videos. It's great. It's amazing, but we need to reach way more people with much less effort or means. And that's when I looked again to Igualdad Animal. And on December 10, which is the International Animal Rights Day, which not too many countries celebrate, they took this concept to the next level, and they brought 500 activists to Plaza del Sol in Madrid, put them all in rows in a grid, like a triangle formation. And instead of showing videos, they have real deceased animals with them, the victims. So they showed the victims. And that, again, blew me away. And I said, that's it. That's what we need to do. Look, they have 400 people. They're getting so many people to see this. And it's much stronger. It's like a video, but it's in a way much stronger.
It's live theater. Yeah. That's what you were saying.
That year, really quickly, I got all the heads of the groups in New York, all the animal rights groups. We did a historical meeting at Jiva Mukti, which is a yoga studio there. And I pitched this idea to them. Let's do like Spain. Let's all of us, I know in America, it's a different mentality. It's very hard for people to collaborate, like socialism. There's no real socialism here. Very hard to collaborate, like everybody for one cause, right? All for one. But I tried to get everybody on board, and people were in favor, and we kind of started working towards it. And slowly, one by one, they dropped out because this didn't like that one, and that one didn't like this one. But anyway, we did this event in the end. Me and another lady, and the two of us pulled it off. And that was the first start. I mean, it was so successful that we decided to kind of call it a name, National Animal Rights Day, and started the tradition. What we did in that event, we did have deceased animals. That we did a funeral ceremony for the billions of animals that die every year with posters and in spoken word and music. And then we had a veg fest, like a celebration. I added that element because in Spain they just did a protest and then they went home. But I added that element of let's also there's reasons, there's things to celebrate. We are winning slowly every year, so why not celebrate that instead of just being sad? And over
in
the
these
years,
events, are you still doing the dead animals, the holding the dead animals during those?
we give our cities the choice to choose if they want to do it or not. So some of our cities, it's mostly the bigger ones like New York, London, LA, some in Australia, in India, no, Italy. Some of them, so it's up to them. Some of them do it. It's logistically and emotionally very hard to get those animals. And
right, I was going to ask about the logistics because I mean, I don't even know where I would procure.
Yeah, me
I mean,
neither.
I feel like I see dead animals all the time, right? I'm always seeing. When I lived in Las Vegas, it was always impressed upon me that every time I walk down the street late at night, there's bones in the gutters, and I think, wow, I'm literally walking amongst the dead. There's literally bones in the street because of people eating chicken wings and throwing them on the ground, or eating ribs and just throwing them on the ground. So it's just bacchanalia, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where do they get the dead animals? Deb's asking the same question, so I'm glad I'm not alone, Deb. Thank you. So what is the logistical hurdle that one must overcome in order to procure these dead animals?
Right. First, I would like to say, yeah, we're surrounded by dead animals, but very rarely we see whole dead animals. Like, that's the thing. People don't see.
They see animal parts.
They see a piece of meat on their plate. It's compartmentalized. They don't see the full animal. Most people never see a lamb or a baby cow or a chicken or a turkey or a goat in their life.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, today I listened to a podcast about fish, and that once fish are processed, up to 77% of fish are passed off as species that they aren't, because people don't know the difference between a red snapper and tilapia. Yeah. And I think the same thing happens with chicken and other fowl. You don't know what you're eating. We know it happens with fur. Dogs and cats are often found on people's fur trim. So once the animal, I mean, it behooves the industry to keep us so stupid as to not know which animal is which. It's because we only get to see the parts, right? We don't see the full animal hardly
ever. It's interesting because for me personally, when I started being vegan, going to the grocery store, the fish aisle was the hardest because because they're whole and you can see it's an actual animal. But when you go to the meat aisle, you don't see anything. These are little pieces of whatever.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. If people saw the full animal, most of them wouldn't buy that stuff. If they saw a baby pig lying there, or a lamb, which is
that's so true. In the Asian supermarket, they'll have baby pigs underneath the plastic on the meat tray, and people, like white people, think that's unbelievable. They think it's just astounding, or even some larger parts of animals too. Sometimes when you see.
But anyway, to answer the question, it's different in each country. Each country has different laws and different rules. In Spain, for example, they literally throw, when farms have animals that die, they throw them in a dumpster outside. Anybody can come pick them up. Of course, in the US, it's very different. But long story short, I can't go into details because, again, it's different and each city is different. But the thing is, we take only animals that died on their own in all kind of terrible places, because we don't want to give anybody an incentive to kill animals for us.
Of course.
We only take animals that died overnight on their own, which these facilities would have to start talking about even, but they have to throw them away to the garbage or give them to some rendering service.
Discard them somehow.
Discard them, and probably cost them money. So we found a loophole. We take them, and I hope none of them is watching here. But we take them, for free. We take them off their hands. We don't really tell them where they're going. No questions asked. They don't really know, but they're in a way maybe glad to get rid of them. That's at least in the US. In different countries, it's different. But we get them, and of course, we don't never pay these places. We don't want to give them any incentive. But we take them, we clean them, we give them the only TLC they ever had on this planet. Getting emotional here. Then we put them in a freezer, we freeze them, and we prepare them for the event. We bring them to the event, we handle them with care. At the event, people hold them, and then before we let them go back, either to the freezer or straight to cremation. And in LA, we have a animal crematory that cremates them right after the event. Before we let them go, we do an energy circle. We have like a human circle around them. We bless them. We send them on their last journey, with all the love we have. So yeah, we take good care of them, and we really honor them in every step of the way, like you would honor your human dead, right? Like, so I learned over the years, when I thought about it, why am I doing this? I come from a culture where honoring the dead is very important, and funerals and death is this thing, because I've been to 9 funerals by the time I was 18. It was all around me because of wars, because of this, because of that. So, and the ritual of honoring the dead and the funerals and all that. Where I grew up, we don't cremate people. We always bury their bodies, and also we bury them in white sheets instead of coffins, which is a little bit more personal. So yeah, basically, we get them from all kind of terrible places. I'm in a way glad that they died on their own. They weren't slaughtered. But at least we treat their bodies in a way that we would like to be treated ourselves, that human would be treated. And
it's something we talk a lot about on my show during the normal week, is that I don't think veganism stops and starts at killing. I think there's a part about respect. It's not just about animal rights. It's also respect. You need to respect animals as you would any other human animal. You respect them the same way. So I like to hear that. Explain to me, though, let's go back a little bit, because of course, anyone who's vegan or been around for a little while knows about National Animal Rights Day. And I've seen video of, like, mostly people like to share the video of the music, and Tice did a great show this year in New York. And I know Kirsten Maryland, the person who did our theme song, has performed there at different events. Could you kind of like tell me kind of if like a kind of a flyby itinerary of what happens on a National Animal Rights Day?
Yeah, so it has 2 parts. The first part is this opening ceremony, which is basically a massive public.
So we're talking 8 a.m. Like what? What are we talking?
Like, let's say, I mean, again, different cities at different times, but let's say LA or New York, 12 noon. People start gathering at 10 a.m. We get everybody. We give them this shirt because we want to have this unified look all around the world. The animal holders get ready. We usually, up until now, they wore these overalls, protective gear, gloves. Sure. Everybody knows. We know ahead of time who's gonna hold the heavy pig or who's gonna get what animal. Everything has to be organized. But anyway, we get organized in a location. We mark the grid where everybody will be standing, all the rows, so it's symmetrical. Again, this is performance. This is street theater, so it's not just a bunch of people standing. It's like an organized army of people, basically telling society, look, non-verbally, this is the result of your lifestyle, of your choices.
Right, look what we've done.
Yeah, so we get ready for the ceremony. 12 noon, we start the ceremony, and then it's a funeral service. So there's spoken word. Usually there's an opening speech. There's poems. There's moments of silence. There's music, live or recorded. We try to do it live. We had a string quartet playing the famous Samuel Barber Adagio one year in LA. We had Moby doing the opening speech. Anything artistic, to honor these animals. We in LA, we like to give each animal a name, and we like to tell their story to the public. Again, public has no idea what pigs go through, what goats go through, what baby cows go through, what chicken go through. We tell the story. We tell their sad story, where they came from, how they were born, how they were raised up until the time they died. And then so basically, like a regular funeral service, we do like a program, and then when it's time to let them go, we do this energy circle around them. Usually we kind of like hold hands, and we send them our good intentions and good energy. Then our animal team takes them away, and they go straight to cremation in LA, and other places they go back to the freezer, and then either to be buried in nature or cremated, and then we get their ashes and we spread that in nature later on in another mini ceremony. And then we end the opening ceremony on it's very emotional, very sad, but we try to end it on a bit higher note or more hopeful note with reading the Declaration of Animal Rights, which is another project of ours. So every city around the world reads this declaration in their own language. Then people sign it. They sign it on a big piece of paper that they then ship it to us, and we have the original declaration that we wrote for the first NARD in New York in 2011. And we keep adding these pieces to it. So by now it's like, if the gay quilt, or there's been project like that, like it's by now like a half a mile long paper of people's writing and poems and names and signatures, any language you can think of, from Hebrew to Japanese to Arabic to French to Spanish and English. And then so that's the end of the opening ceremony, and then we very easily transition into, like funerals where I come from, or any human endeavor that is very, very sad. People need some happy resolution, otherwise they go home and cut their wrists or something. It's not going to be helpful. So we have a celebration then. And that celebration is, again, celebrating the vegan lifestyle. So we have sometimes booths from different groups. We have vegan speakers. We have vegan performers. We have one year we did a vegan fashion show. We had a vegan dance performance, a martial art demonstration. Vegan magician in LA performed 2 years ago. So we just want to celebrate the vegan lifestyle and celebrate us as well, ourselves. So it's a good chance. We always say we never get a chance to mourn together as a community, and we also don't get too many chances to celebrate together as a community. So the opening ceremony allows us not only to honor the animals and also show the public how these animals look like, but also allows us to get emotional together in a safe space. But also then the second part of the celebration allows us to actually celebrate each other and pat each other on the back. Good work.
Yeah.
And then finally people leave the event on a hopeful note, kind of pumped up to keep the fight for the coming year. Keep this agonizing, very almost.
Well, with that many moving parts, I mean, it sounds like a year-long project. It would take all year to organize these things, right? I mean, it's a full-time gig, but do you still find time to do acting? I think because you were in, I want to say Stargate, is that right?
Star Trek.
No, not Star Trek. If you were Star Trek, I would definitely know. I'm a Star Trek freak. Stargate, I remember I remember fondly. But I remember I didn't watch all of Origins, but I think that's the one you were in, right?
Yeah. What do you mean you didn't watch all of it?
He's gonna have to now.
Well, Star Trek is more my thing. In the late 2018, I think. When did 2017? When did Stargate Origins come out? Something like that.
Yeah, beginning of 2018.
2018. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing in 2018, but I'm more of a Star Trek guy, to be honest. I did like the Stargate movie and everything. Did you enjoy it? Did you watch it? Are you a sci-fi person?
Well, I watched the original. And by the way, before I answer, I see Deb Thompson commenting. Which city are you from, Deb? I'm curious. But I watched the first Stargate Origins movie in 95 when it came out.
It must have been 90.
Because I was still in Israel, and we had. It was like a big sensation for the entire country, because we had this actress Millie Avital, who played the love interest of James Spader. She was in the film, so she was the Gal Gadot of today. She was like, "Wow, look, she made it to Hollywood and all that."
Yeah,
Tucson, Arizona. Thank you, Deb. I watched the movie. I remembered it, and then when the time came for MGM to do this final iteration in the Stargate kind of saga franchise, and decided to do like this weird streaming short episodes thing. I got to play the Nazi villain of all things.
You got to play the Nazi villain, which is funny.
I love that.
Because the Israeli accent, I guess. Do you speak German or Yiddish or any of?
Yiddish is a mix of Hebrew and German,
right.
So that's easy. And to speak, I specialize in languages, so I speak German, I speak some Russian, I speak a bit of French.
Oh, fantastic.
Hebrew, Yiddish, Arabic. But the German accent was easy for me. Again, my family is all from there, Europe, Germany, Poland. Romania.
I wanted to talk to tell people about how we met, you and me, because it was around veganism that we met. It was so everybody's aware that right now there was a big strike in Hollywood for the actors and for the writers and everybody else. And Aylam and we met during the pre-negotiations. So before SAG brings the negotiations with producers and big studios and all, SAG has pre-negotiations where all the actors can come and bring up topics that they want to have discussed with the producers and everything. And I was talking and I was like, hey, I would love to have vegan meals or vegan options on the menu, because on set sometimes there's really nothing for us. And so Aylam contacted me and he was like, hey, me too, I'm a vegan. And I was like, that's how we met each other. And I don't know, do you want to share something about that?
Well, like you said, it's the W&W process. It's the process where all the union members can talk among themselves, and they get a chance to say what is important for them going into the negotiation. And of course, everything we say gets ignored, and then they negotiate whatever they want later on. So
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
both me and Fanny felt that, when we brought up this vegan issue, of
nobody
course,
cared.
Cricket silence. Nobody gives a shit. Sorry.
Nobody cared.
Excuse my French. Nobody. But at least we connected over this, and we kind of try to think together. Hey, how can we? It's it's not only to have vegan food for vegan actors on set, which, like Fanny said, doesn't exist sometimes.
Yeah.
I tell you her stories of, I was on a production where the lead star, a young lady, was vegan, and she had to hire her own private chef to make food for her because what production provided wasn't what.
Yeah.
Okay, they had salad.
Doesn't make sense.
That was the vegan option: a salad, a bunch of greens.
But
you think it's so weird too, because I'll go to events like conferences, and they will have a vegan because it's not that hard to make pasta. You know what I'm saying? Pasta with some primavera vegetables, and it's not hard. So
it's cheaper too.
It's
usually cheaper, and we're not asking for much. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it is ludicrous to me that this is still a problem.
Well, it's part of a whole awareness, and I think, again, we spoke. Me and Fanny spoke about it. It's not just that. I mean, the union's president was talking about, hey, going green, and minimizing the impact of productions on the planet, which is huge. It's vehicles, and it's food, it's this, and look, our logistics. You want to go green, okay? So it's not going to help if you save on showers or water, or if you don't give water to your actors, or if you have napkins that are recycled or whatever. I mean,
no straws.
Straws. Yeah, no plastic straws.
Paper straws only.
No, it's
you want to go green. I mean, really learn the science. Get a grip. Join the 21st century. I mean,
I don't know if I don't know. I have two questions for you. The first one is, I don't know if you saw, but when we had to go back to work after COVID, we had to take mandatory COVID training to go back to each studio. So because I worked with so many studios, I saw them all. Like, it was like I had to watch 20 of those, right? And the only studio, I don't know if you saw, that did anything related to, hey, COVID-19 is happening because the environment, the animals, please try to eat more plant-based, blah, 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 was HBO. It's the only one that in their COVID training was talking about that. I even sent them a private message. I was like, thank you so much. I haven't seen anything related to that since, but during the COVID training, I don't know if you saw Aylam, maybe not.
I didn't see any of this stuff.
But yeah, it was really cool. And the second question I had for you was, how did you reconcile being an actor and being an activist, right? Because you're a strong activist. Has it been annoying for your acting career? Did you have to, were people asking you to do commercials for milk and you were like, nope, I'm not going to do that? Like, how has it impacted your career?
Well, before we ask that, we should ask, how long have you been vegan, Aylam?
Oh, since 2011, since right before the first not even. I was vegetarian. I went vegetarian in 2006, and then somehow was in the dark. Didn't think. I mean, didn't make the connection, and finally the coin dropped, and 2011 I went vegan. So how many years is it by now?
It was 13.
That's a lot. That's a lot. We don't want to.
So it affects
old.
me in several ways. First of all, it's very time consuming, and for me, it's hard to, like, what am I? Am I in the acting mode now or animal rights mode? Because I operate differently in each one of them. In the animal rights mode, I'm very, I was an officer in the army, so I'm very like an officer. This is what we need to do. Bam, bam, bam. Plans. Notes. All this. I can show you all my pile of notes here, and I have a team that I'm managing. I'm like an little army general here, And as an actor, it's completely different. And that's one of the reasons I became an actor, because I didn't want because I went to film school first. I wanted to be a director. But then I realized I don't want all this responsibility. I don't want to be a general on set, Yay, second year of
you can't always be a general.
Right. So it's a different mode of being, but yeah, it's very time consuming, because I'm not just an activist. I'm running a nonprofit. There's a lot involved in running a nonprofit, logistically, blah blah, and salaries,
money,
and
everything.
Money. Now we're in the midst. You caught me in the middle of try to fundraise money for next year, so it's a lot of work. But also, yeah, in terms of, I have to tell my agents, guys, I'm not going to do commercials for any non-vegan stuff, even voiceovers. I'm not going to promote any of stuff. I don't want to be seen. I actually have to have added now to any contracts when I do work. I cannot be depicted on camera eating. Of course, I'm not going to eat any animal products, but I don't want to be depicted eating animal products. I don't want to sit in a dining scene, at the kitchen, the table.
How is it taken? Meat. How is it taken by agents and producers? Like, how is it received?
My agents understand, and it hasn't been a big issue. I haven't been yet in a big film where you have to have meat on the table. We have to have you eat meat. It wasn't, it wasn't a big thing. Actually, there was a big show called Hunters. It's about Nazi hunters, and I had an audition for that show. And in the script, I had several auditions for the show, but in the script there was a scene where it's a fictive show about the Holocaust, but basically
it's like Al Pacino hunting Nazis, right?
Yeah, but basically Hitler survived, and now he's in South America, and they hunt him and they find him. So it's in like the scene where they catch Hitler, in the scene, I think I can reveal that it's been 2 years ago already.
Yeah,
it happens on the boat, and I'm saying I'm the Jewish, kind of older Jewish guy that he killed my family, and I'm now telling him, we caught you. And in that scene, I'm opening it's on a boat. I don't know why, and I open a little compartment, and there's like fish out of water, like suffocating there. And that was already in the script, and I told my agent, I can't. So it was a big show, high stakes, Al Pacino, right? But I can't do that. And she said, you know what? Just send the audition anyway. I mean, I didn't have to. When you see the audition tape, you don't know what's there. It wasn't fish. Just do it anyway, and then if you get cast, if it becomes an issue, we'll have that conversation with them. So I didn't get the role, but luckily it hasn't become an issue yet. For example, like Joaquin Phoenix now, in Napoleon, he has to ride horses.
He's riding horses, yeah.
Right. So I haven't been in that situation. I don't want to ride horses. I don't think anybody will cast me in a role that will have to ride horses. But if it happens, I'll have to have the conversation with them, tell them, guys, I don't want to be on a horse. I don't want to ride a horse. Can you do it?
It's really interesting, that one. Like, if you ever watch behind the scene footage of like Clint Eastwood movies and stuff, a lot of times they're sitting on stools doing their lines, because the horses, they're not actually on horses half the time that you think they're on horses, because the horses are kind of off camera, and they just need people to kind of pretend like they're on horses. And it's like, it's wild to me that we're still putting horses in movies at all. Today I met with a vegan activist who wanted to see the chicken truck. So I met her in Daytona, Florida, and she's an activist. It's really interesting, actually. She's an activist about roadkill and vehicular killing of animals. She told me today, I found out today, that 1 million animals are killed every day in America on the roads, which is crazy to me. I'm like, does that include insects? That seems like a crazy number. She's like, no, it's just birds, lizards, snakes. I mean,
squirrels.
I memean, 1 million a day. It just seems like just an unfathomable number in America alone. But then I know I clocked her shoes, but like, it's been raining here, but she had like knee-high boots on. They were rubber, and she saw me looking at her boots, and she's, oh yeah, I just came from the stables. I'm a horse person. And I'm like, I didn't even say anything, because I'm like, I don't want to get an argument with a vegan activist who says she's vegan. It's just like this blind spot for vegans that I can't stomach, man.
Yeah, I've been on a horse once in my life. That's before I was vegan. It was in New York. Me and my friends thought it's fun to try in Prospect Park, and then I'm going to answer. The question we just had, why they can't use CGI horses. But anyway, we went this question. We went on in Prospect Park, which is the other bigger park in New York.
Right.
You basically
the other park,
go on top of horses, and you don't even gallop, you just walk a little course and go back. I felt so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. I didn't want to be on top of this animal. If they tell you, if you want to go make them go faster, you basically kick them with your legs, with your shoes. I literally so not enjoy this experience that after. So I didn't enjoy any of it. I, instead of enjoying, I suffered through the thing because I felt so bad for the horse. And then right then I decided never again. But anyway, look, I don't know what happened on this specific film, but I'm assuming that, in a big battle, like French Napoleon battle scene with like 300 horses, it will be very difficult to create CGI. I'm sure some of the horses were CGI, but
some of them are, or they're copied in, or they
the background but the big action, like where the Joaquin Phoenix and the other actors, it's probably going to be very difficult to do all the movements, especially in a battle of the horses. So, I don't know. Hopefully they did CGI horses. I haven't heard.
I have not heard that in this case they used. I'm sure that there were CGI horses, but the ones on which are depicted with him on his back,
right?
That's a real horse, and it bugs me because Joaquin Phoenix is at that level where he could say no. It's kind of like, I don't know. So I watched this movie. I was really interested in seeing it. It was about the last duel ever fought in France. I think it was with Matt Damon and other famous people, and Adam Driver. I forget the name of the movie right now, and I really wanted to see it. And they had a duel with horses in the end, and I'm just like, because they're jousting, and I'm like, they could have done so much of this movie with zero horses. I'm the whole time editing in my mind, you didn't need any, and they had a lot of it was CGI because there were really hardcore battle scenes where the horses are dying and stuff. Those are all CGI, but it's like, I'm going, well, why not just keep the rest of it? There's so many shots where it's just establishing shots with horses riding up to a castle and bullshit like that. We didn't need that. Shakespeare didn't need that. He did. And that's great.
No, it's crazy. It's not only horses. I really I have an awareness of this right now. There's so many films and TV shows with animals in them.
Yes, because people love it. People love, like, if you open your Instagram, I don't know, mine is like that, but if you open your Instagram, everything's about animals. People love watching animals. Like, that's why we have zoos and everything. Like, people love seeing real animals.
But they don't think what goes in making a movie. It's not just, there's a company that has to schlep an animal there against their will. They have to keep them there for hours. You know how filming is. You wait for 10 hours until your shot is ready. Then you wait another 10 hours. They have to feed them, and I don't know what kind of food we don't have vegan food on set, so think about the animals, what they get fed on set, paper or cardboard. And they're there the whole day, sometimes in the sun. Then they're required to do things they don't want to do. They're required to have people on their backs, or
they don't understand what's happening.
Right.
That's kind of the worst.
So if we're saying they are their own individuals and we want to give them agency to live their life as they see fit, we have no way to tell them what to do and force them to do all kind of things for our entertainment.
Of course.
Well, true. All of that is so true. And what's sad to me about especially animals and entertainment, it strikes a chord with me because I'm from Southern California as well. And it's always been, it pissed me off before I was vegan. It's always pissed me off that we're just using these slave animals. But like, you have to ask, like, okay, the Napoleon story never gets told? What the fuck? The story of Napoleon has been told. It's been told again and again and again. Henry VIII has been told. Henry V has been told. Like, we told those stories. I mean, like the Pancho Villa story. I'm trying to think of stories that people still need to hear that have to have horses in them. They don't exist. Even Westerns don't need horses. There's all sorts of Western movies that don't even require horses because most of it happens inside. Most of the shit that human beings do happens inside. So it's just like it just always has bugged me. It's weird that there's this blind spot for people who otherwise consider themselves vegan. That's one of the worst things. Joaquin Phoenix doesn't have a leg to stand on, morally speaking, because now he's let himself be compromised. So now his Oscar speech, okay, well, that's fine. Don't use animals for their milk. Wait a second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's immediately a hypocrite. Everyone loves that everyone loves that Oscar speech.
Yeah.
But then
look, I don't know. I wasn't in his shoes. Probably will never be, but I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if they I haven't seen the film. I'm probably not going to see it, but I don't know if they did use real horses. It sounds like they did.
But he wore a skateboard cap, but he wouldn't wear a skull. He wouldn't wear a wool cap. He wore
Look, it's media. Who knows what's true and what's not? But I read also that he didn't want to wear a hat made of wool.
So speaking of but there you go.
Well, hold on. They said that he said the word rad. Just do a rad version of Napoleon. Just to make sure that everyone knows, the movie Rad was not a skateboard movie. It was a BMX bike movie. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. If you haven't seen it, there's even a BMX bike ballet that's very much worth checking out. You can watch the ballet part, the ballet scene, just on YouTube. It's very much worth seeing. Okay, you would love it.
So my question to you, Aylam, was we were talking about Napoleon and war, and you said you were in the military. So how does someone who was in the military becomes a non-violent person? Like, what was the transition? What happened to you?
Well, compulsory service. They have compulsory service, don't they?
Yeah, so it's compulsory. I didn't have a choice. Again, nobody asked me. When you're 18, boom, you're drafted to the army. Luckily, and again, that would be. It's the same emotional dilemma like being on a horse. I didn't serve in the combat role. I was in the intelligence because I speak languages. So I sat in a bunker and did intelligence work. I never hurt a living being. I never stepped foot in areas of conflict.
So it wasn't a shift. You were always
I was against it. But again, I knew that I felt that if for some miracle somebody would think that I should be a combat soldier, I will have my principle. I said, I'm not going in there. I'm not going into the Palestinian territories. And it's a whole discussion. But I'm not gonna. And I remember even in basic training, so they give you a gun, they train you, and even they tell you then, do not fucking shoot anybody. They tell you it's for your protection. If somebody comes to attack you, you can use it, but do not shoot anybody. You'll get a court-martial if you shoot anybody. And then you tell them, but you just told me that it's for my protection. What do you do if somebody comes to attack me? We don't care. Do not shoot anybody. But anyway, if I had, I already had my kind of my views and my principles, and I luckily I wasn't in a combat role. But if I was in a combat role, I would have the same issues that I have now about not eating meat in the commercial. Like, no, I'm not gonna shoot anybody. I'm not gonna go in there. I'm not willing to kill anybody. Luckily, I didn't have that dilemma, but I remember having those thoughts with myself. I knew ahead of time when I was already in high school that I'm going to be in the intelligence because I studied Arabic. Yeah, it wasn't even a question. I knew they're going to.
It seems like it's a similar story I've heard because I've had South Korean friends. I've had lots. I lived in Germany for 6 years, and they when I was there, they still had compulsory service. They still do, but they've shortened it to a point where it's not as significant as it used to be. But when I was there, it was still 1 year for every boy. I know in Israel, it's both male and female have to join. Everyone. Which is I think egalitarian. I think it's pretty cool. It always kind of sucks that the boys have to go in Germany, put their careers on hold and everything. But a lot of them told me that they would if they were conscientiously objecting that the military, when it's compulsory, they know who's your guys with the guns and who's the guy. They do this every day, and they know how to separate.
They do tests. Listen, Israel, when you were like in high school, they do all these tests. Mental tests, physical tests. They give you a number.
Here too.
They give you a number. It's called a profile. Yeah. They give you a number. The maximum is 97. So if you're perfect physically, no any issues, you're having 97. I had a 72 because I had scoliosis in my back. So I already knew thank God, I'm not going to be a combat soldier. And then when I studied Arabic, I knew.
But even Gal Gadot, she was a soldier. She was a combat soldier.
I think she was she trained soldiers to do certain things like.
It's interesting to me because I was not an American. I became American like 2 years ago. And the one thing, when I read all the stuff to become American, the one thing that was there is like, you're going to have to bear arms for America if you become American.
Country, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. So I pushed the deadline. And it's only when Jess, my husband, was like, well, if you're vegan, you might have a reasonable cause to be like, I'm a nonviolent person, so I don't want to do that, which seems like it's a rule in America. Like, if you can prove that you are of a nonviolent philosophy, they won't force you to do that. But I was like, if not for that rule, I would have not become an American, because that's totally against who I am. Like, I'm not going to sign it.
to reinstitute the draft, though, I think we'd have to be in a really, really bad place in the world for that to happen. I mean,
but the world is not getting better right now.
Well, it is certainly
you
scary.
Never know.
It's scary. I think before the end of this the next couple of years, I actually thought before the end of this year we would see American soldiers in Europe or the Middle East, because we have now two potentially world war starting conflicts going on in the world in two different regions, and that's always bad news in history. I'm very, very worried about that. Luckily, cooler heads seem to be prevailing now in the Middle East again. It seems like throughout history, the Palestinians attack, the Israelis win, and then it goes back to quiet for a while again. For another 10 years, we'll have what passes for peace in that region. It's hopefully we'll avoid American soldiers in other parts of the world. That'd be pretty awesome, I think.
Do you think, Aylam, that maybe why do you think was the reason that you felt most attracted to silent protest? Like, how was that for you more impactful? Is it because of a military past or something? I don't know.
Especially for a guy that speaks this many languages, huh?
Right.
It's true.
I think the igualdad animal thing that really hit me hard. It hit home. They could have stood there shouting, meat and violence, or it's not food, it's violence, or go vegan. They just stood silently, and there's a lot of power in it, because the non-verbal messages are streaming at you, the visuals, the look in their eyes. But also, it actually, I investigated it more in my head later on. Why is this effective? Why am I attracted to this? It's actually creating a safe space for people to want to stop and engage with the footage. Whereas the minute you raise your voice and you start being vocal, or you spout your opinions, and usually you point a finger at people, you blame them, they shut down. They just want to get out of there. It's even me. If I go in the street and I see people say, hey, you want to join us? Sorry, I have to run. I don't want to even engage with it. It's not a safe space. I feel attacked. So
I get that.
Silence does the opposite,
On the one, I agree, but most of the time when you see activists raising their voices with megaphones and such, it's not at individuals. It's at Max Mara. It's at Louis Vuitton. It's at Jim Henson.
Those are super effective for their own sake, for what they're trying to achieve.
Right.
So, I go to the Fur Free Friday. I think I met you there.
That's how we met in person.
Right. So I go there, and that's one time over here. Then no, here I need to shout my ass off, and we need to be vocal, because what the goal is to make them uncomfortable and make clients not go into those stores, and make them realize we have to take fur off of our shelves. For people who don't know, we're talking about an annual demonstration in Beverly Hills where
on Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday. People go to all the fashion, big, fancy Beverly Hills stores that still use fur in the year 2023 in their products.
When it's forbidden in California, it's banned.
So how are they still using it?
They do it. Yeah, they do it online. They do it in other countries. And if you go and you ask them nicely, they'll do it.
They have the right to still sell the stock that they already have imported, and they are still allowed to import used or second choice or second hand, whatever that may mean. And so, like most laws, there's little ways to get around them.
But you see, in this case, we're not trying to create a safe space for the other side to come in and
right. That's
my
right.
But it's a company.
Purpose. Yeah, we're trying to create a non-safe space for them. So it's total opposite of what let's say in our
we're trying to
like
pressure
ours,
them. Yes.
Yeah, a ceremony like ours, what we try to do, we're not trying to pressure the public or blame them or anything, make them wrong, as it's called.
Yeah, it's
we're
just
trying
it's
the
just
opposite to bring them to us and engage with the message.
Absolutely. I mean, and I totally agree with that. I just needed to express that caveat simply because I think a lot of times, especially now with DXE style disruptions, it seems like all of us are out there screaming at consumers or screaming at individuals, and you're absolutely right. I don't think that's a good way to start a conversation. Now, I think the jury might be out whether or not it's effective, although I've heard lots of people say that
all of these methods are great and they are effective for their own thing. So I went to Wayne's trial. I went up to Sonoma County to attend Wayne's trial. I support DXE and I support everybody, but it's like in I don't know, it's like in acting. You have to know what is the scene, what's the tone here, what's going on, what am I trying to achieve, what is my character
and what's your strength as a person,
right? Yeah, what am I trying to achieve in this scene? And then, okay, what tactic am I going to use to get there? Because I also teach acting, so objectives in acting, we know these terms. Objective, what's your objective, what's your need, what's your this, what's your action, what's your goal? But yeah, so the goal justifies the means. For what we're trying to do, which is commemorate the animals and open the public, create an emotional reaction in the public. We found that being silent, I mean, we're not silent, there's music, there's spoken word, but we found that non-shouting and non-pointing a finger, but the opposite, standing there and letting them come to us, is more effective. But yeah, I endorse all the other methods, and they're all effective in their own.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, to me, it's like that Marshall McLuhan quote that medium is the message. And like when people say medium is the message, I don't really know what it means, but the idea is that like TV changes the way you think. So if you are on TV and thinking about TV and watching TV, it changes who you are as a person. That medium is the message. And if you're on Twitter all day long, you become more and more like Twitter. The medium of Twitter makes you more like Twitter. And you're absolutely right. Like, do we want to be the shouters and the screamers all the time? Maybe not. And that's why I like to diversify my my activism.
Your portfolio.
Yeah, I like to diversify the portfolio because I don't want to be. I do enjoy. I'm hell on that megaphone. I enjoy it. I love doing it, and I think I'm good at it. But I can't always be doing that. Like, I don't think my hearing will hold out. And I also like, I don't want to be just the guy who yells chants. I don't want to be that guy. I don't think there's much critical thinking going on at those moments, but I do think that we need to be shouting and screaming at Louis Vuitton to stop what they're doing. Yeah,
it's almost like you don't want to shout at individual people, you want to shout at corporations. That's
right, because that's the only way they'll hear you. You're absolutely right. Yeah, right. Totally.
But
corporations, corporations make themselves public. It's different than individual.
And I want to say throughout history, there's been examples of the silent, the silent protest thing. There was a few years ago in Turkey. They had kind of unrest, political unrest, and like 1 million people came to the street in the capital, and they just stood there, like that, or stood there, or blindfold. It's street theater, it's performance, and there's a lot of power. They just stood there silently, like a mass of people stood silently in front of the parliament.
Yeah,
and it's so powerful, almost more powerful than if all of them would be shouting, resign or whatever.
It's very interesting because when we were at the rodeo band event, there was this person who was like screaming and like almost crying and being so upset at the other people who were there on horses to promote, the rodeo. And my husband and I, we both felt like, oh, that's less powerful. I feel this person because they look a little bit too much like
I think I know who that person is. Yeah, it makes you look insane. You're hysterical.
Exactly.
You're crazy.
Whereas when you're just there, you're standing your ground and you're just saying your message, but you're not losing your temper. To me, it seems more powerful.
And also acting, it's public speaking. When there's rules to these things. What's more effective with human being? Is rarely effective to deliver any message. There's pitch of tone. If it's male or
to
female,
individuals. Yeah, I think sometimes Sometimes you got to scream. Sometimes you have to scream at politicians. Sometimes you have to scream.
Right, but what
at
I'm trying to say, even screaming has its rules.
Yeah.
Hysterical screaming
Yeah.
is very different than me. No, do not do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah. There is firmness, or there is
It's the rules of
hysterical.
the rules of public speaking and how effectively to deliver a message. I mean, like everything in any other human endeavor, people have found the best practices for each and the rules for things. So yeah, I agree that the hysterical thing doesn't achieve much because it people don't listen to the message, and it makes you.
It depends on me how much of it is theater, just like you were saying. Like, I might yell, but I never lose my temper, ever. Never have I lost my temper at an action. Never have I lost my head. Police come up, and I'm just as gentle as a lamb in the Bible. I'm a gentle man.
No, you don't have to be gentle. You can raise your voice and be very firm, but if you veer into hysterics, that's a different thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I did want to ask you, the vegan community. I have friends who, let's say, have lived in Israel. Let's put it that way, and they've found that a lot of the vegan community has kind of been different in since October 6th. Have you experienced any of that, or do you find that?
I mean, we probably shouldn't talk about it, but yeah, I think most of the vegan community is not informed of exactly what's going on there, taking one side, because I know in the media it looks like one side is the aggressor and terrible aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I lived there for 32 years. I was in the army again. Thank God, not in a combat situation, but I lived through wars. I went through wars. I remember the 73-day war. I remember the Lebanon war. I was in high school. I remember the Intifada. I was in the army. Again, didn't have anything to do with it, but I was serving at that time. I went through period. I remember terror attacks. I remember being 6 years old and walking back from school with my buddy, and we see a little bag behind a bush, and we were calling the police as a 6-year-old. That's the life you live. You call the police. It didn't even call my mom or anything. Straight, you call the police. There's we call
the hotline.
Suspicious 911 suspicious object. They came. They of course they close the area, blah, blah, and they have a robot that shoots the thing. If it's a bomb, it blows up. If it's not, turned out to be a real bag, not a bomb, but still, as a 6-year-old, that's the awareness you live your life with. Oh, is that a suspicious? Can that be a bomb? And I remember, terror attacks. I remember hostages being taken. I remember women and children being killed. I remember buses, when I later lived in Tel Aviv, buses blowing up about 200 feet from my house, and me in my house feeling the bomb, hearing and feeling it. Anyway, it's a very complicated conflict.
Absolutely.
I hate the killing of civilians on either side. I think it's terrible. It shouldn't happen.
Yes.
I agree with you.
I don't agree with the governments of each side of what the tactics or strategies they're using, because it always involves killing civilians. So it's terrible. I don't have a better solution to this conflict. It's so complicated and insolvable. Let me tell you that.
Well, it's solvable, isn't it? I mean, there's a two-state solution that's been on the table for a long time.
No, but you think that's a solution. But it's a solution that has been brought up and tried in a way, failed. Has been a solution of one state that includes everybody as equal citizens. That kind of working, but also I understand why would they want to do it? They need their own state. It's insolvable. I mean,
it's very complicated because it's generational. We saw that also with the Hutu and the Tutsi, and it's like, because a generation they had killed people's siblings or families, then whoever is the generation, even 2 or 3 generations, remember that neighbor killed their grandparents.
It's also religion. It's territory. Even people say most of the fight is not over territory, but it's a thing. I auditioned recently for something about the Balkan Wars. It's the same. These are brothers. They're cousins. They're brothers. They fought each other so viciously. Including crimes against humanity, rape, murder, ethnic cleansing, all kind of terrible shit that you can't even imagine. and they're all neighbors, so, and this is because one side is Muslim, the other side is Christian, and the other side is Orthodox, and the other side is I don't know, Catholic,
like religious.
So it's almost like, whenever the territory, religion, and like you said, generations of memory, collective memories involved, it's like
it's really hard.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I don't think for our purposes we need to solve the issue or go into all the different solutions that are on the table already. But I was actually more curious about the vegan community, because now I feel like our thing has a rift in it. And I've said many times that the only vegan position is one of nonviolence in this case, one that is saying that we need to be solution oriented and talking about what solutions there might be in a peaceful fashion. I also said that maybe if America hadn't squandered its place in the world as mediator, arbiter, somebody who can bring people to the table in a peaceful fashion, because America just doesn't play that role like they used to. There's how many photos have I seen with Yasser Arafat next to whomever and an American president? That was how we kept what passes for peace in that region for so long. So, but that's all that aside, what I'm very, very curious about is what your experience is as far as what I feel is so important to me is the vegan community. I find so much comfort in it and solace from a lot of the people in it. And now I think a lot of people are showing themselves as something that I didn't expect.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, look, I could have posted on social media. I'm Israeli, but I'm also a pacifist. I could have posted on this side and that side, just adding to the problem, adding to the argument. So yeah, you're right. What I'm finding is that most vegans or vocal vegans are taking a side without investigating everything, without knowing, while sitting and having their espresso somewhere in the UK or the US.
Overnight experts.
Yeah, giving their opinion about this and that. Instead of exactly what you said, let's all find peaceful solutions. And if you noticed, if you check our plan this to Instagram, for example, that's the only thing we said about, because every other group said this and Free Palestine or whatever, or Israel, or the Jews were supporting Israel.
I stand with them. I stand with them. Yeah.
So the only thing we said is like, we organized a Zoom meditation for peace. Because again, I'm involved. My whole family's there. My 90-year-old parents had to run to shelters because they're being rocketed, in Tel Aviv. But still, the only thing I can do to help the situation is not to take a side, even though I'm very heavily involved in one side. It's not to take a side, but yeah, let's offer a solution. And the solution we came up with is, let's have the only thing I can do is ask people to meditate for peace, send peace and love, send nonviolence. That's really the only effective thing I can do right now to solve the situation. Send peace and nonviolence to both sides, to everybody. I know you might not believe in the power of meditation and global consciousness and all that, but that's really the only contribution I could do to solve this in a peaceful way,
Well, I believe in the exasperated efforts of people who feel powerless and the power of prayer and the power of meditation. I think that the exercise is very important, just to the personal psyche and maybe to global peace. What do I know? Right. But I guess I love what you're saying, and sometimes I think it's generational. I think that I'm probably closer to your age than a lot of people on Instagram are, and I feel like now, if it used to be, if you like, I feel like I remember everything you just mentioned in the Intifada, 73 Days War, all of that. I remember the Lebanese War. I remember all of those happening in my lifetime, most of them, or at least reading about them, after the fact. And I feel like now everyone's opinion. Nobody asked for your opinion, and yet everyone feels like
but social media is the business of creating content. So people are going to want to create content, and if what's right now happening is this thing, people are going to want to make content about this because it's a business. That's what they're selling, their opinion, and it's more and more about opinion than not facts. So I understand that. I disagree that they do that, but I see how it's the media, like you were saying earlier, the media makes the message, and it's exactly that. So
medium is the message. And it's funny because I read something recently that influencers are now trying to make it look less professional, but regular users like your sister down the road or whatever, your next door neighbor, she's trying to fulfill an aesthetic that has been presented by social media, and now personal users are looking more and more manufactured, and the professional users are looking more and more amateurish. They wanted to look more real. It's a bizarre thing, because especially since you're right, they're in the business of making content, but every individual is not in the business of making content, and their opinions, first of all, don't matter, and secondly, are only adding, like TikTok is through this whole conflict.
It's human beings. Yeah,
it's so interesting to me because right now I'm making a bunch of videos. My whole thing is trying to create my thing Fannulous with, vegan content and all. And so many people come to my videos and be like, well, nobody wants to hear your opinion or whatever. And I'm just like, well,
you're on Instagram. What do you mean? It's a garbage can of everybody's opinion. That's what.
First of all, that, and then secondly, nobody asked you to come here and share your thing. It's right. You don't have to watch there's so much. What brought you here? Why are you here interacting with me? Something was triggered in you, or I don't know. But it's like, it's interesting to me how people are like, I don't want to hear you. Well, then don't, because you can literally do that.
The vegan aspect, I wish, I live, my philosophy of veganism is nonviolence and trying to do the least harm I can on this world to animals and also to people, even though I hate people and I only like animals. But
we know the truth,
right? But if that's your motto, then taking a side that calls for one side, taking a side that aligns with the valid rights of one side is still being violent because you vilify the other side. And again, I didn't speak, I didn't post like all my friends, but there were a few cases where I had to say something because somebody was like literally vilifying the other side while being vegan. But you're adding to the violence towards one group. You're being violent yourself in your speech and in your behavior, in calling. You might be inciting other people for violence.
Have you seen the movie The Fall? It's the end of Hitler's life.
Oh yeah, in German they call it the Untergang. Is it really called The Fall in English? Because The Fall.
I don't know if it's The Fall. In French, it's La Chute, which is the fall. So I don't know how it is because I saw the movie in French.
In German, it's the Untergang. It's the
exit,
like, the downfall.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to me because when I saw this movie, what I thought that they did well was to show that Hitler was just another human being, not in the sense that he was a good person or whatever, but he had no superpower for being this bad, And oftentimes I feel like we have, Ben, oftentimes I feel like we have these ideas. Oh, these people, they're monsters. So it gives us the right to treat them a certain way. Right. That's what they do with animals. They're just animals. So we can treat them a certain way.
That's the real danger.
But if you're just like, no, everybody is a person. And some of them have done shitty things, but they're also just a person. So we have to treat them like a person. Yeah. For me, it realigns everything. It enables people to see others are just these like monsters or like specially terrible people. It enables violence.
Yeah, it's the distancing method.
If you know that the Marshall Rosenberg theory of nonviolence, which again I try to bring to everything I do.
I don't know it.
I'm not an expert, but Marshall Rosenberg was this Jewish guy that came up with this whole practice and theory called nonviolence communication, NVC. And he used it in highly dangerous conflict areas in the world, like Northern Ireland, Middle East. He was in Israel, Palestine, Middle East, the Balkans. But according to this theory of nonviolence, is all people have the same needs. We all share the same needs, and there's a list of needs, but all the basic needs: to be loved, to be appreciated, to have agency, to have free will, choice, blah, 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 and be safely, physically and emotionally safe. So all people, we all share the same needs. Some of us go about achieving these needs using a tactic or strategy that doesn't support life, that is violent and destructive. So a terrorist, well, I every cell of my body wants to call terrorists monsters. It's funny, almost like automatically I almost say, oh, they're animals. Then I catch myself, no, I love animals, but monsters. That in the minute you do that, the any dialogue, any possible non-violent solution is out the window. Because you say, oh, their needs are not important and their tactics are so bad that I don't agree with. I can't even talk to them because they're not human. But no,
you've dehumanized them, right? Yeah, exactly.
They have the same. Even a terrorist. I'm sorry to say it. Don't get mad at me, my Israeli friends.
No, I agree with you.
But even a terrorist is a human being. They have a need to be safe. They have a need to have their own country. They have a need to get respect. They have a need for justice. They just go about it in very, very violent and destructive ways that don't achieve.
Well, they've been
because oftentimes they've been raised like that. That's also something that a lot of people forget about terrorists, is that when you are a terrorist, very often, not always, but very often, you've been raised for that. You have groups that collect children or young adults and brainwash them into doing these things. So these people, they didn't have the same chances at proper education, all of that we did.
And
so
again, you mentioned Hitler. So even Hitler, was a human being. He had his needs, went about it in very, very violent ways, very destructive ways. And according to nonviolence, the only way to have a dialogue, even with somebody that you call a monster or your enemy, is recognize that they're human, recognize what their needs are, listen to their needs underneath what they're saying, if they're willing to share their feelings and their needs. And when you hear each other needs, that's the only opportunity to actually relate to each other and maybe then find a compromise that will fulfill your needs and my needs. So if I hear from Hitler that his need is to, be respected and to feel safe and feel that nobody's threatening his people.
Go to art school. He wants his art appreciated.
Yeah, art appreciated and to be loved by women because he was rejected and all that. And I can say, you know what? I have the same needs, some of them, and I understand. But would you be willing to consider going about it in using a different tactic to get those needs? And I suggest to him, you can get your art appreciated not by killing people in concentration camps. You can do it by do your own solo exhibition in Art Basel in Miami.
Right.
Do this, do that. I'm kidding,
that's also with Marshall Rosenberg. He's a mediator. People came to him to help these things. I think that goes to show how unchecked power, unchecked people, it gets pretty scary pretty quickly. I think this is exactly what happens in religions. Religions are all fine and good until you start putting people in charge of others. This is the problem with the patriarchy. This is the problem with hierarchies in the military. You have it's fraught with abuse. It's fraught with horrible problems between superior to
people use very, very destructive tactics to get those human needs that we all share, like power, abuse of power, oppression. It's all to fulfill a certain need in that person. But Marshall Rosen, by the way, it's a book. It's online. It's something that all people should learn. I think, and it's available to learn. And I know people. I have a nonviolent coach here in LA. I know people that live it, and it's beautiful to see. They're so different.
I've always thought of him like a hostage negotiator. That's how I always thought of Rosenberg. Like
he was after. He was like Eckhart Tolle. Developed this thing, and then because it was so effective, people started inviting him to actual help in negotiations in conflict areas.
That's how I know about him, is that he was like one of those master negotiators and mediators. He was like a King Solomon kind of character.
He was great because he was able to get two sides that really hate each other to actually have a dialogue using this technique. But it's available. The book changed my life. Nonviolent communication. Exactly. I have it here. on my bookshelf, and
it's on the screen, Deb. It's on the screen. It's on the screen. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg.
Yeah, and there's many there's also an audio version of it, and there's many clips of him on YouTube. Any clip you watch of Marshall Rosenberg on YouTube will blow your mind, because
there's some where he's like talking at the camera, explaining how he would do things. It's almost like a masterclass vibe, right? Like,
and he has he has puppets. He uses puppets actually to demonstrate some of his ideas. Yeah, like a giraffe puppet. And
you've piqued my curiosity. I'm like, when this is over, I know what I'm doing.
He's an interesting cat. Like, I've known about him, but I didn't know that.
No, look, it's amazing for regular life. I mean, we have conflicts in life all the time, and it's the only way I learned, where if I have a conflict with somebody, even work, there's a way to de-escalate it and use NVC to actually get to the issue, and then it does wonders. It does wonders to any kind of conflict.
Yeah, in Vegas, I had to take a lot of conflict resolution courses because of, well, it's Las Vegas. There's lots of conflict, lots of violence. So we had to take them. We took many. The managers had to take lots of non-violent conflict resolution, because there was always something. Something was always going on.
Violence rarely solves things. I mean, every human people on the planet have tried it. We keep trying it. Unfortunately, it never solves anything.
No, it doesn't solve the problem. It solves an immediate thing, but it doesn't. It's like punting it down the road, right?
Yeah,
like,
it just exasperates the problem. It's
I mean, we'll see. Like, I think peace will last again in the region we were just discussing, and
I really hope
we'll be back here in a few more years. It'll happen. That's the thing. It's like this. We've seen this movie before. It's
not a lasting solution. Like
there's no right.
Yeah. Again, there needs to be a solution that takes into account the needs of both sides. You cannot say, "Oh, this side of it," because we were here before, they were not even here. It doesn't matter. They're here now.
Doesn't matter.
They have needs. Both sides have strong needs,
and both of them have been there forever. It's like, it's such a ridiculous notion. Like, we were here first. What the hell?
It doesn't matter who was here. It doesn't matter if you came here yesterday, but you're here now, right? You're here now. You're a human being. You're my neighbor. I have to find a solution that respects your needs. There's no way for me to say you don't matter because you were not here yesterday.
Yeah, I'm an American. I'm an American now. I can vote beware.
Right. Yeah, I am a little bit worried about that, but I'm also in Florida and they all vote. So
but it's true that when you're in a new country, it doesn't matter how long you've been there. If you have the right now to participate, you have the right.
Even if you don't have the right, that's a whole other discussion.
By just being a person.
Immigrants, poor immigrants came over here, crossed the border because they have no choice. They fled another terrible fate.
Refugees.
They're here now. So what are you you're gonna ignore it? And
no.
What's funny is that Bill Maher just did his last editorial of the year about this subject, and he's like, it's funny because he echoed some of the things that I was saying about California, Texas. It used to belong to Mexico. If Mexico came over our border and did some things that were unspeakable acts, what would you expect the American response to be? It would be
Third World War.
It would be incredible. It'd be so insane. It would blow everybody else away. It would be so scary. When it happened in 9/11, we started a 20-year war in Afghanistan. A 20-year war we fought in Afghanistan. Many of my friends went to Afghanistan and fought there because of what happened on 9/11. And 9/11 was small potatoes compared to what happened in Israel this year. So anyway, let's get off of that. I just want to ask one more question because we do have to land this plane, no pun intended, with plane jokes. So what's the future? What do we have? Where can people find you? How do people get involved with your organization, Aylam? What's coming down the road?
So thank you for asking this. We are making all the efforts we can now to raise funds to expand all our projects, but NARD mostly. We want to get to 200 cities and even more this year. We want to allow or help each country to have its own National Animal Rights Day one day, just like we have Memorial Day here or Independence Day here. Yeah, that's the website. So basically, we need help, funding help, and also helping hands. So anybody who wants to organize a National Animal Rights Day event in their city, if there's no one yet, please get in touch with us. You go to the website. There's all the contact there. Contact us. You can also contact us on Instagram or Facebook. Join us, contact us, get in touch. We want to bring it to more cities. If you want to organize in a place that doesn't have an event, if there is an event in your city, please come and enjoy that event. The date is going to be Sunday, June 2nd, 2024. And
it's like the it changes though. It's not always June 2nd, right?
It's the first Sunday of June, so it falls
first Sunday of
on
June. Got it.
The 2nd, the 3rd.
Awesome.
It's 1 week after, and not by chance, 1 week after Memorial Day for people in the US. So we like to call NARD Independence Day and Memorial Day for animals combined, because the ceremony is a kind of Memorial Day. The celebration is kind of Independence Day, celebrating their future independence. So it's 1 week after Memorial Day for people in the US.
Okay, cool.
What about your other stuff? Your acting? Yeah, can anybody
auditioning?
Well, it's a new world. Stuff. They're hiring again, I hear. So you know.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Have you experienced? It started with a boom,
it started like auditions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But at least one good thing, you don't have to do a self-tape now, or you can ask for the option. And I already did it twice. You can ask for a Zoom audition. Which I so much more prefer to these self-tapes.
To actually meet the people. Me too. Yeah. Like I think the most uncomfortable thing in the life of an actor is to have to do a slate. So it's called a slate for self-tape. A self-tape is your audition, your general audition. And part of the self-tape, yes, is to make a scene, the scene you're going to audition with, and then to make the slate. And the slate is like, hi, I'm Fanny Pierre, I'm 5'6", I'm represented by blah, blah, blah. And you're just like naming all these things. You look stupid. You're just standing like you're at school and you have to just do something. It's I don't know what to do. Yeah. In Europe, they do it much better. I think they call it more of a presentation. Sorry?
They call it ident there, or
they call it a presentation video, and they usually ask you a question to answer, which is way more interesting than listing facts about yourself, which is the way in America.
I mean, the whole thing is awkward, but at least these Zoom things, you see the other person. They gave me a note, which is amazing. They direct you, because when you do a self-tape, you don't know exactly what they want, but they tell you,
your thing.
Yeah, actually, let's try it this way. We actually meant it for me. So I love it.
I love it too.
Thing.
All right, last thing, since we're already talking about pop culture, I always like to ask about like what is outside of animal rights, outside of where vegans are humans too, animal rights activists are humans too. What kind of pop culture do you consume? Are you a Star Trek? Maybe a Stargate guy? I don't know. What else do you nerd out about besides Nard? What do you nerd out besides Nard?
Yeah. Yeah, movies. I mean, not any certain genre movies, good movies. Music. I'm a musician myself. Another project of mine, get my music out there. Been in bands, try to get a band in many places, trying now in LA also. Yoga. What else do we do? Yoga and volunteering. I mean, I know it belongs to animals. I go once a week.
You do shelters.
Yeah, I go once a week to an animal shelter, Annenberg Pet Space, which is a beautiful... It's a rescue, basically. It pulls out animals out of the LA Animal Services, but then it gives them, each cat or dog has their own room. It's not like a typical rescue. Beautiful place. I volunteer there. I'm a cat socializer, so I hang out with the cats. And
socializer.
Yeah, I help them. If they're like little kittens, they're afraid of human. I make them get used to human. Basically, the goal is to get them adopted. And what else do I do? That's
fantastic.
It. Boring life.
You look like a really big reader. It turns out you look like you.
I wish. Yeah. I read all these books. Yeah, I love reading. That's my main passion.
Thank you everybody in the chat. Your questions were so interesting. Your inputs. Thank you so much for the chat. It was super nice to have you.
Thank you for joining us. And
yeah, thank you for taking the time, Aylam. I know that you usually do the rescue on Sundays, so thank you for taking the time for being here.
Awesome. Well, we want to hold you from it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you
guys. Thank you.
And yeah, that's it. We're gonna play the new theme song again.
Yes.
All right.
Bye everybody. Bye everybody.
That's my favorite part right there. It's like
Vegan Sunday School. Cool video too, Sky. Thank you for making the video.
I try. I have my moments. You're getting corny in the comments. Green hearts in the comments. I like it. It's kind of like I asked her to do a ukulele vibe. This is Kirsten Maryland.
Vegans. Thank you, Kirsten.
All right, everybody. Thank you, everybody. And thanks, everyone. Please don't forget to follow Fanny and follow Nard. And if you are on Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, please follow us on YouTube and subscribe to Vegan, of course. Thanks, everybody.
Bisous, bisous.
Bisous, bisous. Bye.